Welcome to Clean Plates, where every bite tells a story. I'm Brian Romaine, joining you on a culinary journey to understand the whys behind our diets and desires. Welcome to Clean Plates, where every bite tells a story. Today, my guest is Anais Dominguez. Anais, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you? It's pronounced Anais. Anais, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I just want to be able to get that correctly. I know that's a little difficult.
No, it's okay. It's my life story.
Wonderful. So tell me about your earliest memories with food and how it's shaped your relationship with it.
Yeah, so I am Cuban-Puerto Rican American, grew up in Miami. And so food is such a big part of our culture. I've lived in multiple generational homes like my whole life. My mom lived in a multi-generational home. Same with my grandma. So there's always someone cooking and someone designated for food. Actually, my grandfather was an Italian chef. So I've always just been around food, but I've also always been, I feel around diet culture. In Latin cultures, it's really honesty is the forefront of everything. And so when a kid is eating too much, there's always comments and things like that. And I think I really started to notice or something in my brain switched probably when I was around 13, kind of going into puberty. I developed a lot faster than a lot of my friends. And so I was always bigger chested. And so that was always a comment. And yeah, and just always trying to fit this perfect Latina size was always hard. So I would say my earliest memory with all of that is probably 13, 14. But before that, even as a younger kid, 7, 8, I was always known that I was a good eater. I would eat everything. I wasn't a picky eater. And that wasn't the case for my sister. She's a super picky eater. But I loved seafood. I loved just anything. I would try anything. And yeah, and so those comments kind of go hand in hand of your weight and not being a picky eater. But also it's funny because on the other end, Hispanics also really comment on if you're too skinny. So it's really never a win-win. So yeah, I would say that's my only, my earliest memory. It's always been a part of me. But again, just in culture-wise, food is so big. Big family reunions are, it's always around a roasted pig and just a lot of rice and beans and plantains, things like that. So yeah, I was always grew up with the traditional Cuban Hispanic food.
And I would assume that living in Miami is kind of just goes completely hand in hand with that as well, with your cooking style, your culture, and all the food included.
Miami is its own little country. I like to say it's so different. Even if you just go to West Palm or, just a little bit more north, especially back then when it wasn't a lot of younger people moving to Miami for the more entrepreneurial lifestyle. But everyone back in the last 10 years, I think the restaurant industry has really evolved here where people have a lot more options. But before that, it was very much mom and pop Cuban places or Red Lobster or things like that. You know what I mean? It wasn't a very restaurant savvy place as it is now. But yeah, I always I had Cuban grandparents. I always ate at home. We always had food in the house.
And do you think that this has led to your lifestyle content or any of the things that you do with creative aspects now?
It did for a long time. So I lived in Chicago for 7 years and I started off as more fashion and beauty. And I felt I could not keep up with that. And so I wanted to do something that was more me, more aligned with my culture and being Cuban in Chicago. So I had the blog Cafecito in Chicago, which talked a lot about how I lived my lifestyle with the forefront of like what I learned as a kid and like just being Cuban American, being a minority Hispanic in like somewhere where Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, and Dominicans are a lot of the popular demographic. Also just in the sense of like things like body image, and I just try to, relate all of that. And I still do. Like, I mean, I live back now in South Florida. And so I try to, I talk about taking my friends to Little Havana and showing them where I grew up, and things like that. But I feel like now it's a little bit more at eat. Like it comes more naturally because I'm living again in a place where it's predominantly Cuban.
No, absolutely. That makes complete sense. I mean, what would you say some of your favorite local ingredients or dishes that people outside of Miami's culture would, know nothing about?
Yeah, so first comes to mind are plantains. I actually work for a plantain chip company, which is, I feel like, really full circle for me to do that social media, and to do the social media for a plantain chip company and have that Cuban family like side to it and have to bring that to the forefront of our consumers. So plantains, whether that's that they're fried or that they're ripened and sweet or they're in chip form. I think that's like the number one I'm trying to make. My goal is to make plantains like the next superfood, because they're great for, pre-workout, post-workout, really high in potassium, because you always think of like bananas, but plantains, don't sleep on them. I would say like cassava too is in that realm. Those are really great. Some of my favorites. We also have a cassava chip that we sell. And yeah, the other side, it's like really basic, like rice, black beans, very garlic heavy seasoning, like garlic and more zesty garlic, lime, orange citrus flavors that come out. That's really great. Because I remember going back to Chicago, everyone's like, "Oh, you don't like spicy food?" I go, "No, I've never had a spicy food in my life. Like, we don't eat spice or like pepper, like, peppers, jalapenos, things like that. It's again very garlic, citrus forward." I would say those.
That actually does make sense because when I was a butcher, there was a lot of cuts that I would sell to a lot of Floridians that here in Colorado that were used to, the culotte or, different other cuts that are famous in Florida. And then they would talk about the ways that they would season them versus people, vice versa.
Yes, I would say for seasoning, there's a really great brand called Luisa, which makes clean ingredient sazon, and sazon is like seasoning. And they're really great and really on the forward side of just bringing those flavors in very clean and more modern way.
I love that. I'm really jealous of your guys' produce and all of the fruit that you have available. Do you have like a seasonal way of eating, or do you just kind of eat different fruit year round?
I mean, strawberries, like you could tell when it's strawberry season, and you can really tell when it's cherry season.
Okay.
And mango season. So I would say mangoes are like, you don't enter a Cuban household without mangoes during mango season. Like everyone knows someone with a mango tree. I believe like my great aunt has one and she's always bringing mangoes. And then our avocados are very, very different. So we don't use the small hash avocados. You want like the big boy avocados that are a little bit more firm. Those are great. So I would say like mangoes and avocados. You can get them year round, but you really know when it's like mango season and strawberry season too. There's a couple of U-Picks in South Florida that stand out when they're good.
Yeah, and my girlfriend lived in Orlando and Tampa for quite some time. So she was only in Orlando for like a month on her last little stint in Florida. But when I went out there just to pick her up and drive back to Colorado, I was astonished by just the fresh produce and the vibrant scene out there. even in Orlando, I'm sure it's, twice as crazy in Miami, but the nightlife scene, just because we went out just for we went like on a boat ride on the water. So it wasn't like anything like a club or something, but
Yeah.
it was bumping.
The Miami, I think the Miami nightlife is changing a lot because I think people are really into wellness now. And the
That's
wellness
great.
scene is growing, which is great. I still like a good party. I still like a good night out. I think day drinking is where it's at in Miami because it's nice out and then you're in bed by 7. You can go to your Pilates class the next morning. But a
There you
lot of
go.
events are popping up, a lot of just community building, community engagement, but a lot of wellness events that then lead to the farmers market. So I go to this event sometimes where it's a yoga class, a workshop, meditation, and then they invite everyone to go to a vegan farmers market across the street, which is awesome. So yeah, I think they're really integrating both. I'm excited to see kind of where that goes. And I try to live, my whole thing is being in balance. I still love to do that stuff. I don't feel like I got it out of my system yet because I've always done it just in little spurts. I never had one long run. But yeah, it's fun what you can do here. And if you have a boat or if it's easy to rent a boat, or they have these jet ski cars now you can take out, and things like that. So there's always something to do.
I love it. It sounds like you have a balance of everything with your wellness routines and just a little bit of, having fun as well. So that's great because it seems like everything you do is all about promoting balance.
Yeah, I just feel like I am not one dimensional. It's hard for me to wake up at 5 a.m. to do anything, let alone work out. And I'm very social. I like to talk. I like to meet people. I like to network. And so I like to be out. I like to be, meeting new people. I think that it's important for I'm single. So dating too. I really don't find dating online to be fun. And so if I'm going to meet someone, it's going to be out in the wild. I don't know. I have there's this little party girl in me that still loves to go out, and I love my friends, and I cultivated really great connections. Just in general, just throughout my life. And I'm still friends with the people I went to middle school with and high school with and things like that. And so it's nice to go out and, be I think also too, I lived somewhere where it was cold 7 months of the year. And so I really try to I don't take for granted that we can go out to a bar or be outside in March and February and things like that.
Yeah, Chicago is completely different weather
Yeah.
than
It's
Florida.
brutal. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in Colorado now for 12 years, but I'm originally from Kansas, and so it's been around the seasons my whole life.
Yeah, I don't know I know what seasons are, but even Chicago doesn't have spring or fall lasts 2 weeks. So yeah, it's not, I mean, I grew up in a tropical climate. I love it. I'm used to it. It does get really hot in the summer, but I rather take that than the cold. So it's nice. I like being out. I like, being out with my friends and trying new places and new restaurants. And so, yeah, I hope the Miami nightlife doesn't die completely, but we'll see.
I mean, it sounds like that they're integrating a good balance of stuff that is, like you said, stuff in the daytime that you can still do and have fun. And it also seems like a lot of health and wellness stuff that you said you're really interested in seeing as
Absolutely,
well. So
yeah.
that's
No,
pretty
it's
cool.
fun to do those social things with people and then go out after. Again, just that balance. And it ultimately comes from listening to my body. If I necessarily need more social interaction than a Pilates class, then I'll go do that. Because I think being social for me is an aspect of self-care. I mean, it is part of the wellness health wheel is to be social, whatever that means for everybody. And so, yeah, I make that a priority to be, to go out, see my friends, things like that.
That's good. I mean, again, promoting balance is a very positive thing that you can show people that they don't have to just hunker down And
Yeah,
like you said, only work out at 5, 6 a.m. and do all of these very
definitely.
dogmatic activities just because some athlete or some health and wellness influencer, yada,
For
yada,
sure.
told them to.
Yeah. And I mean, like everyone do that. Like you do you, boo. But for me, I have to, I don't know, like even as a health and wellness influencer, I have to just do right for me. And I can't preach or say or promote something that doesn't work for my life, but just because it's like trendy in the space.
Honesty is really the best policy. And I think it's great that you are doing that on your platform. And speaking of which, like, what would you say is your favorite type of content to create as of right now?
I would say that's a good question. I really like doing like introducing new places, kind of like, so I do this thing called Soul Flow into Wellness, just kind of
Right.
highlighting wellness and self-care places in South Florida. I love being recorded more than I love like that point of view. So anytime with my friends and we're just being silly and doing funny videos, I love collaborating with them and posting like fun vlogs or fun, I like to do videos where I show like at 9 a.m. I'm at a workout class, but at 5 p.m. I'm like out having a drink, and then it's like back and forth between like the wellness and the going out and things like that. So yeah, I would say like anything that kind of shows my personality, because I I would say that I am better when I connect and have a spark with someone and can like have that role and like be talking. Like I need that back and forth. I don't think that I'm someone that I can just be like, hey, get ready with me and show my personality, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. I feel like some creators, they got you in like 3 seconds but I need that like back and forth. And so when I'm collabing with friends, when I'm, talking with other people, I think that brings out the best content.
No, it's a great perspective to look at it in your own comfortable way because you know what is going to make the best content. You know what's going to put out the best, and it's not rushed. It's not, you know, dove in a way where you were saying earlier. It's just not your
Yeah.
personality that you're showing. Like you want a little bit more time. It almost seems like I can tell that this is what you do when you're networking or interacting and dining with people because it seems like you truly do know, like during the time of being out, that, okay, so I'm having this drink or I'm doing this or I'm eating that, but, I'm also mindful of tomorrow and
Yeah,
the next day
absolutely.
and things like that. So I think that's cool because it's not just so, again, dogmatic.
hmm I just also have said like I I feel like now I'm 29, so by now I've really learned my limits. Sometimes I still push those limits, but for me, like having one day a week at in the weekend at home is really important. Whether that's Friday, I work from home on Friday and I'm home all day. Whether that's Saturday or mostly Sundays, it happens. It's just really important for me to have because that's when I know I can clean, I can recharge. I have a dog, so I'm like, make sure I'm home with my dog as much as I can be. Luckily, there's multiple people living in the house. Um, so yeah, I just have these like not rules, but just like practices or like things that I'm like, okay, I know that I'm not going to schedule anything on Sunday because I'm going out Saturday and commuting is, everything in Miami or South Florida you drive to, like everything is kind of 20 minutes away and things like that. So, yeah, I try to really be mindful of, okay, I get a lot of opportunities and I get a lot of things to do, and I try to just always map it out so I have time to rest, I have time to be home, clean, take care of my space, things like that.
No, it's great. I mean, what are your some of your favorite like health and wellness home routines? Or, I guess second question would be what does a balanced day at home eating look like
Mhm.
for you?
Yeah, so some of my favorite self-care habits are like face rolling, lymphatic drainage, gua sha, just really like depuffing. I would say too, just like cleaning my space. I am someone who like, you can tell what the inside of my brain looks like when my space looks a certain way. So if I feel good and I feel very calm and at ease, like everything is clean. But if I'm stressed, if things are like a tornado, like everything is a mess, especially if I have like a lot of PR come in, a lot of packages, clothes, things like that. I will say too, like journaling and reading are something I try to do every single day. At one point, whether it's in the morning or at night. And then just like I have a mat and two like weights. So just like any workout at home, I really try not to make self-care and wellness hard on myself. So I try not to go against the grain. Like if getting to a gym is, you know, kind of like more money, things like that. I'm like, okay, well, I have everything I need at home. I have YouTube, things like that. On side of like balance and eating wise, I will say it starts always like with water. I always try to just not drink coffee first thing in the morning. I like drink water. I take all my like supplements and medication, anything I need to take. And then, so I recently went on a GLP-1 journey. I don't think it's over forever right now. Maybe in the next couple of months, kind of go back on. But so I'm like really learning about my appetite again because I really did not have an appetite. But I always do like a protein coffee, and I really like these strawberry ones that I find that I put. So I'll do like espresso milk and then a little bit of protein milk in it, and it's strawberry, and it just tastes like a strawberry smoothie or a strawberry milkshake. I'm really like egg. I love eggs. So like egg. Well, right now I love eggs. I feel like every couple of months I'm like, I don't want to look at an egg.
Yeah.
So like eggs, things like that. And yeah, I mean, it's funny because I live with my mom and like she literally has the diet of like a 12-year-old. Like she doesn't like love vegetables. She, you know, likes like salmon and maybe like another type of fish, but she's more like eating out and I like to eat at home. So we kind of find balance in there of like who's buying groceries next, who's buying the next like Uber Eats. She like eats Eggos and like cheese and salami, like very constricted diet. So there's always like sweet treats in the house, and I try to just not try, but I let myself have like a cookie or something. But I always just want to, I don't know if this sounds like lame, but for me, it's just like it's about what's in the house. And like, I try to have balance of what I bring in. Just because I have, just between like GLP-1 and gaining that appetite back, it's really easy for me to binge eat right now and go back to those patterns. So I try to just be really mindful of that and not to say, and I can eat whatever, you know, I do really believe like eat what makes you feel good. But for me, a lot of those like junk food doesn't make me feel good. And even when I want, you know, something sweeter, I try to go for, I always say I have like a gym bro diet, like, you know, low fat, no sugar. Like I try to just find like little alternatives because, okay, so in college, I was really into the bloggers that were like shopping at Whole Foods all the time and buying, like people are talking about like coconut cult. I knew about coconut cult like 6 years ago. It was really big back then, and now people are eating it, probiotics. But I would follow these bloggers that would spend like hundreds and hundreds of dollars in groceries to buy like nice, clean ingredients. And that wasn't feasible for me, or it would literally, like I would be broke like all the time. But do you know what I mean? And so I really had to pick between like, okay, I can get something with like super, super clean ingredients, or I can like worry about my calorie deficit, if that makes sense. And so
it does.
And like the thing is with a lot of like Splenda is probably the worst thing for you. Do I have Splenda in my cabinet for when I need something sweetened? Absolutely. Because that, you know what I mean? Like I just really have to make my decisions very easy and quick because I will get decision fatigue. And I am trying to lose weight. Like I did go on GLP-1. I want to lose weight. Like, and I've struggled with I think I'm a little over the place, but I struggled online with talking about, kind of going back to the beginning, I struggled with talking about body positivity and wanting to lose weight because you don't think those things go in hand, but I'm allowed to want to look better, to want to feel better, to want to run faster, to want to lift heavier. And those things come with weight loss. Like I've lost 30 pounds. I had the weight to lose. And so for me, making decisions about what's in the kitchen really comes from making easy decisions and making things that, you know, I buy a lot of the same things all the time. Yeah, there's other influences in the house too. Like I don't do all the grocery shopping, but I live with my mom. I don't live with a roommate who's like, don't touch my food. I'm like, I'm your kid. What's mine is yours. You know what I mean? But it's buying like the alternatives sometimes. I'm trying to think what's a good one. Like if I want pasta, buying protein pasta and things like that. And for me, it's making those little changes that give me that satisfy me. But in the same time, I'm being mindful of like my protein intake, my calorie intake. I'm still eating. I'm just more mindful of those things. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing all that. I know that that's a lot to process and then have to share. So I really do appreciate that because
of course.
I try to have this type of conversation with day-to-day people all the time. I think that there is a huge misconception in what is healthy eating because it's little changes, just like you were explaining. I think probably sometime maybe a year or so ago, I stopped drinking just regular soda. And I'll drink Diet Coke or zero sugar.
I love a Diet Coke. I love a Poppy. It's not something that I necessarily, so I try not, like, again, it's like all about what I bring in the home. If it's at home, I'll eat it. I'll drink it like it's there. If it's not, but yeah, that's another swap. But, and you get so much of this like sugar and not even sugar, but chemicals and things like, and I think you have to choose your battles.
Yes.
You do. You either have the time or you have, my big thing is like, I always say you have the time or you have the money. Like having both is really, really a luxury. And for me, a lot of the time, I don't have the money, but I have the time to make something, or I don't have the time. I don't have the time and I have the money to buy already done egg muffins or already done protein bread. And like, sure, that may have a few added things in it. And like, I'm not saying that that's the best thing in the world, but for me, it works. And for me, it was really helpful on my journey, like protein drinks, like those, you know, whatever, the Owen or, you know, any of those kind of drinks, like, sure, they're not might be the best thing, but when you're on the go all the time, it's like really easy to take and things like that. Same with like, I'll get a snack pack at the grocery store if I'm like going to film content and I haven't eaten, we're going to a Walmart anyway, I'll pick up a Taylor's Farms. Sure, $3 for things I can do at home, but I didn't have the time to do it at home, so I'm going to spend the money kind of thing. And, you know, it's like, it's hard to follow what, and my friends and I were talking about this yesterday. It's like, it's so hard to compare yourself to the fittest person, but that person is working out 2 times a day, works from home, you know, has a stable like a dink income, to dual income, no kids, like to think, I mean, I don't have kids, but I'm a 1 income, like in the beginning of my career. So I think it's really about like choosing what works best for you. For me, GLP-1 was best for me. And having those things that are maybe low calorie, no sugar, low fat, things like that, alternatives, because it's like, I don't have to think about, I have to think less. And wherever I think less, that's what works for me.
I love the perspective that you're sharing because it's really hard to get the concept across to people who are in a genetic disposition of being thinner.
Mm-hmm.
They are just influenced by so many things where I have to like kind of debunk a lot of my friends, to be honest with you, because I go on a lot of deep dives with things running this podcast and taking care of my own body and going through my own thing because I this is just me. This isn't, anything against anybody, but I mean, I used to party pretty hard and quit drinking in 2020 and went through a whole thing with, rehab and the law and a lot of stuff that really changed my perspective on, even being like a skinnier guy, my organs, my body, my skin, I had like a lot of issues that were just hanging on. And so I've just gone through my own journey of, I'm pretty much down like around like 25 pounds from alcohol weight or just snack and restaurant and beer and just calorically, terrible weight. But I just have to explain to my friends all the time now that are like trying to tell me when I'm drinking like a Diet Coke, for example, that they're like, well, the so-and-so and the such and such and the XYZ and that is going to give you cancer. And you're like, yeah, but you're drinking a regular Coke and there's 150 calories in there. There's 88 grams of sugar. So I try to explain to them that I think the sugar and the caloric density of a drink is going to shut down your organs or do something to you faster.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, one, thank you for sharing because I didn't know any of that. And it's also just like, what are your priorities? Like, what are your goals? If your goals are to lose weight, yeah, the Diet Coke is going to satisfy you. So you're not then going to drink a gallon of Coke, right? Like you, it's also like intuitive. Like for me, if I want a Diet Coke or if I'm feeling or like a soda, if I need carbonation, I'm going to go with the Diet Coke because it aligns with what I'm doing, my goals right now. Maybe my goals in 10 years are to just not have cancer, but like, you know what I mean? But that's so hard to do, right? Like I can't control that. I can't control if my body is gonna, I don't know. I just think that like I get it, but at the same time, like that's so unpredictable in a sense.
Facts. It really is. It
really is. Like
it is.
And another point, I can get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Facts. I tell people that all the time, as well as it's one of those things like just
something can happen to me right now. Like people's hearts just give up from exercising. People have died on the treadmill, and you're gonna tell that person that they should have gone on a bike because it's better for their heart. Like people and their opinions. It's just I think people want to help other people, but I think that it's not helpful. I think that
they project a lot. People project a lot of their own. Especially when you're
someone who's like, you want to be in control. Like for me, my weight is something I can control in a sense. Like a lot of it I can control. I can't control my genetics. I can control what I eat. I can control what I drink. I can control how much alcohol I drink. I can control how much I work out. And so when you're like pushing against the flow of like how my gears are running, it's rough. It's rough.
I'm the same way because there's a lot of information that with study has actually helped me. And when people try to just dig into that or keep nitpicking it apart, it's like, well, I don't know what else to tell you where, I dropped all of my beer weight and now I'm actually losing like real weight and like getting to the point where I would like to be. I'm developing my own relationships with food and drink and culture of food and things like that. So it's almost hilarious when I go through these notions with people where I support what people want to put in their bodies. And I think people take too much time trying to convince me that what they're doing is this radical, righteous, awesome journey when I'm just supporting it the whole time. I'm not trying to argue with them or do any of that. But when I explain my own thing and then they just start like digging into it, you're like, well, what are we doing here? It's not.
Also, too, my best relationships come from people that we don't talk about our food. We don't talk about where we're eating. We don't, like, in a sense of like, yeah, we'll go to dinner and we'll share things, but we never like question each other. Someone I think you should connect with is my friend Chelsea Schaefer. She's a registered dietitian and does a lot of like things in the intuitive eating space. But like, I always feel so good around her because I know that she's not going to comment on my body. She's always going to lift me up. And we're not going to talk about food in a negative way. Like, there's this like understanding from both of us. And I think it's from honestly her really pushing me to not worry about those things. And like, but yeah, we never like, if we talk about food, it's about how excited we are about, you know, like what we're like, we like to travel together. So like what we're going to eat on trips and that's it. And like, there's never talk about ingredients. Like I do what's best for me and she does what's best for her. And we enjoy that together, especially when you're traveling and you want to try, like we went to New Orleans together, like such a great food place. Like, and it's so fun to be with an adventurous eater as well. And I've carried that on to like my other friendships. And so, yeah, I think when I was younger, I remember sitting at a Chipotle and this girl being like, oh, that's a lot of carbs. Like, I'm really not trying to eat that. Like, no, like we don't talk about what we're not. And we were like 16, 17 at the time. So it's like I think I grew up around a lot of those like toxic things, you know, and people saying things. And like also, and then I went to college and you are set with like the people who are overworking out and like over dieting. And this is before I really had like conscious thought about that kind of stuff and like got into fitness and wellness and self-care. But I think it's about surrounding yourself with people who like you have these, whether you have to adjust them at first or not, or, you know, you just know their lifestyle. Like we don't talk about those things. They don't feel good to talk about. Those are like unsaid boundaries that we have. And it honestly like makes me feel better in people like Chelsea in her presence and like friends like that, because I'm not worried about being judged for what I'm eating. I think especially when I was younger and you would go out to eat and like if you were hungry but no one else was hungry, it was always like not looked down upon. I just think it's like, I think this is just like a very toxic Miami girl thing where it's like, if not everyone is eating, like, no, everyone is like scared, or I don't know, just a bunch of girls who are like, I just want to eat healthy and da da da. But like, if I'm going out to eat and I need like a hearty meal, like, I'm not worried about getting that like hearty meal now, right? Like, if I'm hungry, even with I'm with people, like, I will stop and eat. Does that make like? And no, so I think it's just like
it totally makes sense what you're saying.
I think it's about having those boundaries, knowing like, okay, I'm in a space where if I have to stop and eat, like I'm not going to get judged. If I have to stop and, you know, I want a sweet treat, like I can do that. And I think for a long time I had friends where it was like weird to do. Like you didn't want to seem like quote unquote like the fat friend, which is like a girl thing. Like it's really fucked up, but it's like a girl thing of like, oh, I don't know. It's just like I'm now thinking back to like being a teenager and like, oh, if, you know, only one person's like, I don't know. It's just weird. And I had a lot of friends with eating disorders, unfortunately, and things like that came out later. And it's just like, it's hard and it comes with a lot of judgment because, again, like you said, it's projected.
I love your perspective on that just because, yeah, it's it's very real. It's very deep because there's a lot of folks these days that don't share those things, or
Yeah.
they try to tell people that they, I don't want to say people lie about what they eat, but sort of, it's hard for people to share their open book sometimes about it because everybody's got a different box that they have to put it in, whether, you're eating this way or that way, or, eating this or eating that. So I find it almost inspiring to, I'm not almost, I find it inspiring to hear this very just raw description of how you're really living your lifestyle, and that you have these friends that's how we do it. This is
Yeah,
what we're
absolutely.
going to do, and we're not going to talk about food. And it's great because it creeps up in conversations more than people
Mhm.
understand, or this that or the third. I think it comes up in everything almost in society, and
Right.
if people would just give people a little bit more of a break or a little bit more time to explain, it's opened my eyes with my guests and other various lenses that I've been able to view through, that it allows me to gain more of a humble understanding for everybody's journey. Because when I was a little kid in the 90s and the early 2000s, people still didn't understand that, like, the body shaming and the comments and the culture, especially in the Midwest, where there's junk food and barbecue and a bunch of
Mhm.
other calorically dense food around, that just ends up, tasting super delicious and
Right.
making you fat. And so
I think it's
it's
just
it's
no. I think too, like diet culture was very misunderstood, and I think I tried a lot of different things. Like I was in college having bulletproof coffee. Like I had no business putting butter in my coffee at 21 years old. Like, and I would eat and then I would be starving. Like it did nothing for me. And then I would eat a bunch of carbs after to like fill myself and satisfy. And I think right now, I think the protein movement is really big. And I think that's really great of just like understanding, like, okay, protein, just get protein, get veggies. I think it's becoming a lot more simple.
satiating.
Yeah, and just feeling full. I even like my GLP-1 journey. I've talked about it. Yeah, like even my GLP-1 journey, like it wasn't really about. I didn't really want to bring in a lot of people. It wasn't for the internet. It wasn't for my platform. It wasn't for other people to judge or have a say in. It was really about me and what I needed to do for my body. And after feeling so frustrated of feeling just like I couldn't control like what I just had like no control in a sense. Um yeah, it was for me. It wasn't for anyone else. And like I didn't want to
And
talk
as
about
it
it.
should be. And I was just saying, as it should be. That kind of thing is super private. That's your choice if you want to share that with anybody. But again, I think that's really brave that you're sharing your story, you're sharing your journey, because the more that it's talked about and it's explained through what you're doing and not what the media is talking about, not what these, social media doctors or other people are
Mhm.
trying to share all these ridiculous facts or things like that. Because I know a couple people who have gone through the exact same journey, and it's, again, gonna be a little different, but there's similarities. And again, I really appreciate you just sharing any of it because it's helpful to multiple people. If it can help one person, that's already a big step in the right direction. And, it sounds like you're doing the right thing and you're living a balanced lifestyle doing it. So,
yeah, again, it's what's worked for me. And I feel like I feel like I don't have to explain it to anyone. And
no,
I'm doing again, for me, decision fatigue is big, having a lot of options. And so if I can refine, make those options have less options, I will be happier. I will feel better. I will have mental clarity in other aspects of my life.
I love it. I love all the things that we've been able to talk about today. Thank you so much for just coming on here again, being so brave to just share everything about your journey and your relationship with your food. Oh yeah, of course. I'd love to have you on again in the future and definitely. Just tell people quickly where they can find you, where they can keep following you and your journey.
So my Instagram and TikTok is at Anais and Balance, ANAISINBALANCE in Balance. And I post every day. And if anyone has any questions, that's a really great place to contact me. Mostly Instagram, then TikTok.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on today. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.
You too.
Everybody, remember, keep your plates clean and your hearts full.
Thank you for joining me today on our flavorful journey here at Clean Plates. If you enjoyed our exploration into the world of food and the stories behind our eating habits, be sure to subscribe where you get your podcasts. And don't forget to share your own food stories on my personal page at Brian Waterleaf or the Clean Plates podcast page on Instagram. And remember, every plate has a story and we are here to discover them together. So stay curious, keep exploring, and continue to nurture your relationship with food. I'm Brian Romaine, and until next time, keep your plates clean and your hearts full.